welcome. Thanks for tuning in to this TV9 Digital special webinar on, of course, Samajhdar Bano, Sehat ke Ishaare Samjho, because this World Diabetes Day and the days around it, the theme essentially is to empower you to stand up and fight against diabetes and heart diseases. And well, you're watching this TV9 special. This is in collaboration with USV, your reliable healthcare partner. And today we again bring you stories and insights and inspiration from those who are helping India beat diabetes and truly win life. We're talking about something many of us don't even realize, the hidden fat actually inside a healthy looking body. Yes, you may look slim, your gym selfies might be looking really crazy, but your body might be storing silent risk factors for diabetes. We call this the thin fat Indian phenomenon. And to truly decode how India can beat diabetes, because it is a long drawn process, but it's not impossible. And all of us, how can we truly win life? We're joined by an esteemed panel of experts, Dr. Mini G. Pillai, MD, DNB, MNAMS, endocrinology, who's a consultant endocrinologist at the Lakshmi Hospital, Cochin. Also with us on the broadcast is Dr. Spurti P. Pai, consultant endocrinologist at the Nanjappa Multi-Speciality Hospital, Kovempu Road, Shivamogga. And with us on the broadcast is Dr. Vijay Sarathi, professor and head, Department of Endocrinology, Vaidehi Institute of Medical Sciences and Research Center, Bengaluru, Karnataka. So one from Bengaluru, we've got somebody from Shivamogga, and a representation from Cochin as well. Down south, we're covering up the Golden Triangle. We've got the Golden Triangle up here in the north, and we're covering the Golden Triangle down south as well. Doctors, let's start with the one question that everybody asks. Dr. Pillai, how would you come in on this? They say my weight is normal, so I can't really get diabetes, right? My weight looks in check, my waistline looks in check, I look the fit part, so I'm seriously not going to get diabetes, right? Is that true or is that false, Dr. Pillai? Let's bust that myth right at the open.
Like you said, it is a big myth because many people who look very slim and trim still carry hidden fat around their liver and pancreas. That's called visceral fat, and it quietly causes insulin resistance, which is the first step towards diabetes. So being slim and trim doesn't always equate to being healthy.
So what are some markers, doctor? How do we get to know that we're not just looking fit, but we're healthy inside as well? Dr. Pillai.
Is that question to me? I'm sorry for interrupting.
No, absolutely. Go on. How do we figure out that we're not just fit on the outside, we're also fit on the inside? Are there markers? Are there tests for that? How do we find out?
Basically, we have to the thing is you have to be physically active. Otherwise, there is clinically it is very difficult to say. There are markers like pigmentation on the back of the neck, which denotes insulin resistance. Then, especially in women, there are irregular cycles, male pattern, hair growth, and like that. There are clinical indicators. But in general, like visceral fat, like if you have a little bit of fat around the abdomen, like you otherwise look very trim, but around the abdomen there is a little bit of fat, like the belly is a little bit protuberant. Yeah. So that suggests that you are at risk.
All right. Let's bring in Dr. Spurti in as well. Dr. Spurti, why is this hidden fat more dangerous? I was going through some of my own research, trying to understand how male fat disposition is different from women's, and testosterone and estrogen play their crucial part as well, where exactly the fat goes and gets stored. So when you're talking about visceral fat, which is the more dangerous out of the two, male are more predisposed to that. Can you help the viewers understand on what happens on that front, and what is a basic difference between a normal fat storage and visceral fat disposition?
Yes, like you already mentioned that the pattern is different in men and women. The fat usually stores around the belly, or the visceral fat, mostly in men, and around the hips, which is called pear shape in women. And this visceral fat is more dangerous because it secretes certain chemicals. And these chemicals are inflammatory substances which can increase your blood sugar levels. It can increase your cholesterol levels or triglyceride levels. It can even increase your blood pressure levels without you knowing. There may not be any obvious symptoms as such, but it is truly a silent killer. So we should be watchful of this visceral or abdominal obesity, what we call. And in Indians, if there is a waist circumference which is more than 80 centimeters for women and more than 90 centimeters for men, you are at risk for having a visceral obesity. It may not be very obvious, but it is there.
How do you get rid of it? Once you understand that, okay, you're packing a lot of visceral fat, how can you start? Is there some, home remedy that people can start doing right from the get-go, and from tomorrow we'll start attacking that visceral fat?
Yeah, you don't wait for the diabetes to happen. You just have to start early. And the most important part is a good lifestyle. And the foremost is the balanced diet, which includes a good amount of protein and fiber in your diet, and also a regular exercise routine that at least you walk 5 days a week for 30 minutes and include 3 days of resistance training, like weight training or something, at least thrice a week, and then you have a good sleep, which is about 6 to 8 hours in a day, and also a stress-free life. These are very important factors which will help you mitigate
Yep.
this risk for diabetes or visceral obesity as such.
It's actually the simple sutras, but then again, doctors, we all know that, life just plays weird tricks on you, and you're unable to even work out on these simple sutras. With us on the broadcast is also, Dr. Sarthi. Let's go to him as well. Let's bring in him. Sir, are Indians more prone to something like this, the visceral fat? Is that something that has been studied? Do we have markers that tell us that, okay, Southeast Asians and predominantly Indians are more predisposed to pack more weight on their lower abdomen, and we love our bellies as well, and we love our food. There's no hiding in that. It seems like a little bit of a technical difficulty over there.
True. It's absolutely true. In fact, like the Indian more fat when compared to Caucasians. So in fact, it's very interesting to know there's something called as the one famous researchers. One is Dr. Chitranjan Yagnik, and another one is John Yudnik. So Dr. Chitranjan is from India, and Dr. John is from London. So interestingly, both of them have the same body mass index, which is an obese or overweight. So despite having this parameter same for both of them, Dr. Yagnik, who is an Indian, accumulated more fat when compared to Dr. John. So that means the Indians accumulate more fat despite having a same BMI similar to Caucasians. So that's how people realized that we Indians look lean, look thin, but accumulate more fat. But unfortunately, this more fat accumulation as in the belly, as Dr. Pillai already mentioned, that's the bad fat. So that's the one which leads to a poor metabolic health. So why we Indians behave like this, whereas Caucasians don't do that? It's basically because our ancestors used to face famine. So genes have been modified in such a way that, so whenever we get an abundant food, so we store more energy, anticipating its need for a future famine. But today's era is all an era of food abundance.
Yep.
So we don't continues to get stored, and which is the one which leads to more fat in the belly, and obviously more complications related to visceral fat.
There's a lot of history that's involved over here as well. Many thanks, Dr. Sarthi, for very eloquently putting it. Dr. Pillai, let me take that question to you. Dr. Sarthi is saying, genetically we're predisposed to store a lot of fat. Our ancestors, they're the reason why we're facing this problem right now. And maybe till the time genes finally change for the future generations, it's going to be a long drawn process. What can we do to our plates at the moment? Let's go beyond just saying that eat a lot of protein, eat less carbs. How about you detail and, put out a framework of what one can actually end up eating in this process? Dr. Pillai.
Yes, basically this remains the health advice, the health concept at the time. Cut down on simple carbohydrates. Not all carbohydrates are dangerous, but simple
So, Dr.
carbohydrates.
Pillai, you're saying
like
no more
sugar,
rice. How is that
digestible.
possible? People are going to start protesting on the streets.
No, it is not like that. But easily digestible carbohydrates, like even if rice, white rice, polished white rice, that is more dangerous. Sugar as such is dangerous. Empty calories, what we call empty calories, like soft drinks, like something like canned fizzy soft drinks, which does not give any nutrition other than sugar. It does not contain any vitamins, minerals, and most of all, it does not give any fiber. What happens, like if it is whole grain food, whole grain carbohydrates, like unprocessed wheat or unprocessed unpolished rice, which is cooked, that provides a lot of fiber also, so that absorption of carbohydrate is delayed. So that gives a relatively stable sugar level over time. And another thing is include a lot of protein also in every meal. Nowadays, the trend is, the dietary advice trend is changing towards whole food, plant based. So unprocessed food, that is whole
Yeah.
food and plant-based food. And we know that a lot of plant food contains protein. Like traditionally, we had this division between carbohydrate and protein and fat, but we know that each and every food item, like most of our traditional food, contains all this. Like for example, if you take rice,
Yeah.
rice has carbohydrates in it, it has fat in it, it has protein in it. So everything is there. And fiber is also there. But only thing is predominantly it is carbohydrate. So previously we used to bracket it this as a carbohydrate food. But we should remember that all the macronutrients and micronutrients in small amounts are there in all this carbohydrate rich food also. So nowadays it is recommended that, especially for like nowadays the data is showing that
Yeah.
in the long term a plant-based food may be better for your healthy gut microbiome,
Are
which
you a
has a
vegan?
very
Are you a
important
vegan,
role.
Dr. Pillai? Are you a
No,
vegan
I'm
eater?
not. Yeah, yeah. I think you must have had some vegan speakers here. No, I'm not a vegan, but I am like, I would like to be a vegan. See,
Okay.
because that is what the evidence is pointing towards. Because a healthy gut microbiome is supposed to be beneficial in preventing all these lifestyle diseases, which are really causing a big problem for us now, whether it is obesity or diabetes. Because when we speak of diabetes, we know that obesity contributes a lot. Like even now we are speaking about thin people, but people who have abdominal fat. So rather than cut down on carbohydrate as such, choose healthy carbohydrate and choose healthy protein and healthy fat. Like we need all the nutrients in our plate. But and our traditional Indian diet is indeed healthy, because we know, like downside south we have idlis and doshas and all, which are a combination of carbohydrate rich food and
Yeah.
protein rich
Yeah.
food. And we use it with sambar or chutney, which provides fat also. And all the, like traditionally, whether it is north or south, our Indian diet is a balanced diet. And we also have a lot of seasonal fruits.
Many thanks for
So
that answer,
what
Dr. Pillai.
I meant to convey is that
Yeah.
at least in India, it is not at all difficult to follow a healthy diet.
Okay, so you can do it. It's just that, with all these applications and, speed, get to go food, all that fast food that can be delivered to my doorstep within 30 minutes, it's just an easier option. And that's where we jump in the well altogether. Dr. Pai, let me come to you next. We've understood that, we're packing more weight down in the lower abdomen area. That seems to be the problem. How does one know that they fall in this category? Because there are calipers, there's a BMI test that happens, and these days people are talking about DEXA scans as well. There's a new machine, GE, and DEXA scans are happening. So should one go towards the DEXA scan next, or wait for the old school, BMI and calipers? Is that accurate enough now in 2025?
Body mass index is a very easy method to measure weight or what we call as a body composition, but it's not very accurate. So it's just a rough measure which tells us if you are obese or not. And for Asians, the cutoff is 23, which says that you are overweight, and 25, which says you're obese. But that's not an ideal measure. So what we have is the waist circumference, which tells us the measure of our visceral obesity. And I already told the cutoffs, that is more than 80 for men and more than 90 for women in India is considered to have visceral obesity. And then there is also this DEXA scan, which you were talking about, but we do not do it routinely for all patients, because one thing is it's expensive. The other thing is, though it's the standard of measure, it gives us a better composition of the body. We are not able to do it very routinely for all patients, mainly because of the financial constraints. So we have a simple measure, which is waist circumference, which doesn't cost you any money. So why can't we use that? And there's also something called as waist to height ratio, which is being used now. And that also can be used clinically when you're seeing your doctor to look at whether you have visceral fat or not.
You know, I had a friend who got diagnosed with a lot of visceral fat. He took part in one of these scans as well, paid a lot of money. And right after that, you know, he went through a crash diet. You know, there were extreme workouts that took over his regimen. Is that safe to do? Somebody going crazy? I mean, there's a lifestyle issue on one day, and the very next day you're doing HIIT, you're jumping up the ropes up and down, there's a crash diet, all kinds of berries and smoothies are happening. Is that okay? I mean, should you shock your body that way?
There is a craze for all these crash diets these days, but it's not very ideal thing to do, I would say, because you need to give time for your body to get adjusted, and moderation is the key always. So crash diets can cause you to lose a lot of muscle along with the fat also. You lose both muscle and fat when you're losing weight. So when you lose a lot of weight extremely, then you are going to cause harm to your muscles and your body as well. So I would say you keep it in moderation. You do it slowly, but do it consistently. Consistency is the key, and not crash diets. And there's a tendency always, once you stop these crash diets, you tend to regain back whatever you lost. The weight will come back if you don't continue it. So
Yep.
do the things which you can do consistently for a longer time than doing things for a short time in an extreme fashion.
All right, many thanks for that answer. I've been told that we've been joined by a lot of people on this webinar as well. Rahul wants to ask a question. Let's ask Rahul to you know, open his camera or unmute himself. Rahul, if you can hear us from the studio, you know, all the expert panelists are with us. You can shoot your question to them.
Thank you. Okay, I have a quick question. I'm in my late 40s. Now, I walk regularly for, say, half an hour, 45 minutes, but addicted to coffee. And with the coffee, there's a lot of sugar intake in that. So, what are the chances? I know I need to control and cut down my sugar, as everybody keeps saying that in office. But yeah, I'm regular with the walk and everything. Does that help, doctor, or it's high time I need to cut down on my sugar and control everything?
Yeah, that's a good question. Many thanks, Rahul. Yeah, we can finally see you. You know, that's the balancing act I think the doctors are also talking about. Doctors, what do you say? So, you know, somebody who's walking, somebody who's exercising every day, there's consistency that's involved as well. But somebody who's addicted to, let's say, something like coffee, and with coffee comes a lot of sugar, and the person knows that they do need to control that, but that's the balancing act that you were talking about. So, is this person, in this case, Rahul, are they safe? Are they pre-diabetic? Can they expect diabetes to happen? What all should they know and be wary of? Dr. Pillai or Dr. Pai, whoever wants to take that question.
Coffee as such has a lot of health benefits. So 3 to 5 cups of coffee per day, it improves the bone health, it improves cardiovascular health, it has some role in cancer prevention. But what we should remember, that this is all on black coffee mostly, and not much of sugar content also. So having a lot of coffee with milk and sugar added may not be beneficial in the long run. And basically, you have to keep track of your blood sugar levels as well as weight, because sugar definitely it adds on to the weight gain process. So you have to be careful regarding that.
All right, Dr. Pai, your inputs on that?
Yeah, like Dr. Mini told, it's the sugar and the milk which is added is which is causing the harm. So even if you cannot make it zero, you can at least cut down on the amount of the sugar which you're putting in it, or you can cut down on the number of cups of coffee or the frequency. So portion control, I would say, that would also still help rather than making it extremely zero. As I told already, extremes are not good, so be moderate.
All right. I've been told Aparna is also with us on the broadcast here on the webinar. They want to take a question as well. Aparna, if you can, unmute yourself, open your camera, shoot your question to the panelists. They'll be happy to answer your question. And many thanks for answering Rahul's question. Rahul, I hope your question got answered. So hold back on some of those cup of coffees, buddy, and continue with that exercise. Maybe that's going to help you out. Aparna, your question. Can you hear us in the studio? Many thanks for joining the webinar.
Yeah. Hi, again here. Hi, good afternoon. So I have a question. I have in my family my in-laws who are affected by diabetes, and how much? So we know that our Indian portion, I mean the vegetarian diet, and I'm from South background, and we don't meet our daily protein requirements. So how safe it is to rely on the whey proteins that are available, and also how to keep a check in the sugar control, because not every protein supplement that we get, and meeting protein requirements is also important to keep the weight in check. So just wanted to have an idea on that aspect, if I can get an answer for that.
Well, you sure can. You come to the right place as well, because all the three expert panelists are from the south of India. We've got a representation from Cochin, from Shivamogga, from Bengaluru as well. I think, Dr. Pillai, just a couple of minutes back, you were trying to tell us how the sambar, the chutney, and of course, the doshas, they have that balanced diet requisite. But Aparna here is asking how to fulfill that protein goal and quotient. And these days, people are doing weird mathematics as to how much you weigh and how many kilograms or grams of protein you need to take. I do a ballpark figure. I eyeball it most of the time. But should that be a process as well? Answer my question at that and help Aparna as well.
Would anyone this should not end up being a vegan talk, but basically the protein requirement, our daily protein requirement is 0.8 gram per kilogram per day. And previously, we have been taught that vegetarian protein is poor quality protein, and so we need protein from non-plant sources to meet this protein requirement. But this is probably not true, because even plant protein, if you take it from different protein sources, these especially pulses are very rich protein sources. And if you take different groups, like cereals also have a lot of protein in them. And so if you take from different sources, ultimately you will have a very balanced diet. So plant food itself is enough. Like, we need not rely on whey protein also. The problem is that if you look at science very objectively, we all know that milk is not to be consumed after the period of rapid growth which happens during childhood. Now we have a lot of, it is not only lifestyle diseases, we also have a lot of cancers and all that. So when we are not growing like that, at that time, if you are getting a lot of growth factors, this may promote cancer growth and all. And another thing is what we call essential amino acids. All these are present in plant sources also, but to a lesser extent compared to animal sources. So again, coming back to my original point, if we balance our diet so that it is not that we take cereals only. We should take cereals, we should take pulses, and we should take fruits, vegetables, everything. So a well-balanced plant-based diet is sufficient to provide all necessary protein. And we should remember that our protein requirement is not very huge. It is only 0.8 gram per kilogram, and that is ideal body weight. Not like an obese person does not require more protein. And other than like bodybuilders and all may have higher protein requirement. So other than that, and another important thing is that an important nourishment for muscle is physical activity. So it's not just food. Physical activity is a very important nourishment for muscle. So especially like Aparna was speaking about her in-laws, who I presume are senior citizens. So regular physical activity. This year, if you look at the World Physiotherapy Day motto, it is focusing on senior citizens. So this sarcopenia which comes with age, that regular physical activity, the core muscle strength, the proximal muscle strength, all that especially the elderly people. So physical activity is important for younger people as well as elderly people, so that sarcopenia does not occur. And whatever your age is, maintaining the muscle mass is very, very important to prevent all these lifestyle diseases like diabetes, obesity, heart disease, cholesterol, hypertension, etc.
All right. Dr. Pai, your inputs again, answering and helping out Aparna here.
I do agree on some parts of it, that plant-based diet is upcoming, but it's not that the whey protein is very harmful. You can take whey protein to complete your protein requirement every day. But one thing which we should look at is the additives which are there in the protein powders. There are a lot of over-the-counter protein powders which are available, and we are confused what to take. So the lesser the additives or the chemicals added to it, the better. So make it simple, which is pure whey isolate or whey concentrate, which is available in the market, and avoid the additives as many as they may be, but we do not know the long-term consequences of all those chemicals which are being added to it. So if you can keep it simple and clean, then that would be good enough. And plant-based protein, I think we mostly are vegetarians, though we may not eat non-veg every day. I think we do get a protein from our diet too. And predominantly in a study which is done in India, we have seen that we Indians eat 60 to 70% carbs. So it's actually true that we are not eating adequate amount
That's a
of
killer.
protein.
That's a killer right there. Eating so much of carbs is a killer in its own sense.
Yes. So I think nowadays the awareness has increased about the amount of protein we should consume, and I don't find any fault that people are going towards protein powders, but you should look at the contents and read the labels before you take it.
All right. Dr. Sarthi, did you hear Aparna's question? Would you like to come in on,
Yes, I
on
think
that?
very well. I heard that. And to answer to the point, in fact, like protein powders are used by many and are essential in many. So because though we say dals are very rich in proteins, it's only 20%. So if you consume 100 grams of protein, you get only 20 grams of protein from that. So probably that may not meet the need of many
100 grams of
individuals.
dal, you're already scaring me, doctor. 100 grams of dal to consume, just the process of ingestion is so horrific.
Yes. So you may end up not meeting your protein needs. Yes, often we require the support, but I do encourage consumption of dairy products, but they are also a good source of calcium other than protein. So they could be, in fact, I encourage my patients to take curd as a meal because it's very balanced. It contains carbohydrates, it contains fats, and also a good amount of protein. So soya is another vegetarian source of protein which people are interested to make up their need for protein. But when they fail to make up with the available natural substances, yes, they can always look at the supplements. So whey protein is a good option according to me. But the caution I would like to give you is that the ones which are made for gymmers are often adulterated with some anabolic steroids. So be careful about them. So choose something which is typically made for the non-gymmers, which are actually
Yep.
devoid of these adulterants. And the second, the majority of the protein supplements, what they claim as, okay, so even including the very pronounced ones, are actually meal replacements. they do contain only around 30% of the proteins, whereas 55 to 60% of it is still is carbs. So you need to be very careful while choosing your protein supplements. Try to choose the non-gymmer ones. Try to choose which are pure proteins and not the ones which are being, having a majority of carbohydrates. So that's what I would suggest. Of course, for non-vegetarians, it's much easy. Egg whites, skinless chicken, fish are good sources of proteins for them.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's quite fascinating because with all my discussion with all the panelists here and all the questions that are coming across, Dharni also wants to ask a question. The real story, it seems, isn't about what the weighing scale shows. It's about what you're packing in your blood and what the blood reports also reveal. That's also an important aspect. Dharni, if you can hear us in the studio, all the three doctors right here to answer your question. Would you like to shoot yours?
Yeah, I just wanted to check. So I've just turned 40. What are some of the early signs that I need to keep in mind as far as diabetes is concerned?
That's again a fantastic question. Even I wanted to ask you that question, and to all the doctors. Young professionals, they skip meals, surviving on coffee and late nights. I'm working here in a media house. The Red Fort explosion just happened. You have Bihar elections going on. It is a tough task sometimes. So you've got those late nights. You're surviving only on coffees. Could that lifestyle silently be setting somebody like me up for diabetes later? And answer Dharni's question as well as to what happens. What are some of those telltale signs that we can understand? If that was your question, Dharni, we can finally see you now. Would you like to repeat
Yeah,
yours?
that's correct. No, I think you've covered it well. Largely with the lifestyle in mind, what are some of the early symptoms that we need to keep in mind?
Yep. Let's go across the board, but let's go from the opposite side. Dr. Sarthi, how about you take this question first?
Yes, see, like if you're looking for symptoms of diabetes mellitus, probably let me tell you that many of the diabetic patients are not symptomatic. They may not have any symptoms of diabetes. Indeed, to the extent they may not manifest some symptoms of diabetes many years. So we have even seen patients who came with that organ damage because of diabetes, because of the missed diabetes for many years. So don't look at the symptoms to get tested yourselves. Checking should happen at regular intervals, especially if someone is overweight or obese or somebody has a family history of diabetes mellitus. But if you want to answer to the point, what are the symptoms of diabetes? Yes, and the glucose levels are much higher in the blood. Somebody may have increased frequency of urination. Somebody may feel more thirsty. They may lose weight. In fact, somebody may complain of even problems with the vision. They may have some blurry vision. So all these could be some common symptoms. Somebody may have a recurrent skin infections. Somebody may even, in fact, especially males may have a fungal infection at the tip of the genital organ. So may also be in female, there could be some fungal genital infections. So in fact, the manifestations of diabetes can vary widely. But again, I want to reiterate that symptoms are not present in majority. So the diagnosis should depend more so on the regular checks and not driven by the symptoms.
All right. Dr. Pai, how about you? And, also tell the viewers and Dharni as well, what are some of the tests that need to happen for somebody who has no idea about diabetes? What should they go and tell the reception desk at the hospital? Or what test needs to happen? Is that simple glucometer enough, or do you want to get some of the other tests and blood work as well done?
As Dr. Vijay told rightly, half of the population doesn't even know that they are diabetic because they are asymptomatic. So screening every 6 months for those who are at risk, especially in India, it's about 35 years of age. We should get a routine checkup every 6 months, and that would include a panel of tests like a fasting blood glucose, and a glucose which is more than 126 fasting would be considered in the diabetic range. Then you have a postprandial glucose, which is 2 hours after the meal. And if you have a blood glucose level of more than 200 at that point, then we call it diabetes. Also, we have a parameter called HbA1c, or the glycated hemoglobin, which gives us an average sugar levels of 3 months. That is the last 3 months. And a level which is more than 6.5 would be considered in the diabetic range. So this is for blood sugars. And also there are additional panel of tests for the cholesterol levels, triglyceride levels, which is called the lipid profile, which you can be done. And also to look at your liver parameters, whether there is a fatty liver, which is indicative of the visceral obesity, you can do a liver function testing. And especially clinical parameters like your blood pressure, waist circumference, all these can be checked routinely once in every 6 months when
All
you're
right.
at risk. You don't wait for the symptoms to occur. You have to be proactive, and prevention is always
Yep.
better than.
Yep. Go and get those tests done. I think I'm going to get those as well, Dharni. But let's have Dr. Pillai also come in on this. Dr. Pillai, your viewpoints?
I agree with Dr. Spurti and Dr. Vijay Sarathi. We have to screen for diabetes very regularly because as Indians, we are at increased risk for developing diabetes, even if our body mass index everything is optimal. And in addition, we also have to keep in mind other risk factors like being a young woman, if there was history of polycystic ovary syndrome, then risk is more. History of diabetes during pregnancy, risk is more. Family history of diabetes, risk is more in both genders. Overweight, risk is more. Then at the time of were you was your weight low at birth? Did you have in the growth restriction in intrauterine? So there are many factors which increase the risk, and like people with cholesterol already, fatty liver. So all these are risk factors for diabetes who should be especially alert. But I agree totally. Even if there is no risk factor, being an Indian itself is a risk factor, and we should be screening at least starting at 30 years of age, and people with pre-diabetes, that is just before the diagnosis of diabetes, between 100 and 126 fasting, or between 140 and 200 post meal. We should be screening more often, like at least once a year.
That's a massive eye opener because many young people out there say I'm too young for these kind of sugar problems. Now, is that confidence or denial? I think the viewers can make their minds for themselves, because the doctors here are saying don't wait for it. Don't let the train leave the station. Get yourselves tested. Get yourselves checked for any kind of these discrepancies in your blood sugar levels. That's the basic aspect here. I'm being told Shreya also wants to ask a question. All right, we've got those questions coming in thick and fast, back to back. Shreya, what's your question? You can unmute yourself. Can you hear us in the studio? Many thanks for joining us.
Hi, yes. So my question is, what is the difference between pre-diabetes and diabetes? Because as doctor said, that there are no major symptoms which we see in our regular life. So what is the difference between the diabetes and pre-diabetes?
I think that's again the gray area that we're trying to navigate constantly. And many thanks to the doctors as well for answering that same 2+2 question back to back again. It's like that math teacher that keeps on saying you can come back to me for all those silly mistakes, but you don't want to go back to the math teacher the third time. But lo and behold, we're right here again, doctors. That gray area about who's pre-diabetic, who's diabetic. Several reports that come out and say that 1 in 4 people are pre-diabetic. This is the diabetes capital of the world, and maybe a mental revolution is what we need right now. But to answer Shreya's question, over to you, Dr. Pai. Let's begin with you this time.
Yeah, so pre-diabetes is a range which is not already diabetic, as Dr. Mini already told, 100 to 126 in the fasting blood glucose, and level of 140 to 200 in the postprandial blood glucose levels, and HbA1c between 5.7 and 6.5 would be considered a pre-diabetic range. Many of these pre-diabetics do not have any of those symptoms, and even in fact, when they are already in the diabetic range, they may not have any symptoms as such. So this is a warning sign which the body is giving us that you are going towards diabetes, to take care. And if we take care, in fact, the pre-diabetes can go back to normal ranges. And this is an important state because it's not very benign, that nothing happens in pre-diabetes. So you can have prediabetes for a long time. Even during states of prediabetes, there are studies which have shown organ damages, like having a retinopathy, and there are metabolic disturbances which are already ongoing. So it is not a state to be neglected, and we should look at this prediabetes and take care before it becomes diabetes.
Sweet, sweet
Okay.
killer. Dr. Sarthi? It seems like we can't hear Dr. Sarthi. Dr. Sarthi, you'll have to unmute yourself. Dr. Sarthi, if you can hear us, you'll have to unmute yourself, sir.
Yes, so it's true that
Yep.
the prediabetes is increasing tremendously in India. If you look at the data from the 4 metropolitan cities, almost the prevalence of prediabetes ranged up to 45%. So you can understand that nearly half of the young adults are actually prediabetics, which are going to be future diabetics within next few years. So if at all, if we have an opportunity to reduce the prevalence of diabetes in India, yes, we need to address these people with prediabetes to make a lifestyle change for them, make them reduce weight. So, and probably we delay the progression to diabetes mellitus.
All right.
So, as I completely agree with Dr. Spurti that yes, they do have some risk of metabolic complications, but more pronounced is even though the glucose levels are not so high, when compared to diabetics, they have a similar risk of cardiovascular events. That means the heart attack risk in pre-diabetic patients and diabetic patients equally increased. So it's all the more reason that we not only just help them not to progress to diabetes, we need to address all the risk factors for heart attacks and stroke in them so
Yep.
that they don't suffer from these disorders.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Dr. Pillai, how about you round that up and we'll conclude this riveting discussion. I have one last question, but before we do that, Dr. Pillai, your viewpoints.
We have mentioned already, the most important thing about pre-diabetes is that even that increases the risk for long-term complications of diabetes. What are we most afraid about when a person has diabetes? There are long-term complications. Even though diabetes as such may not cause any symptoms, like we saw so many times today itself, diabetes many a times may be asymptomatic, but still we have to maintain the blood sugars in the normal range, because diabetes is a disease with a lot of long-term complications. It can affect the eye, it can affect the kidney, it can affect the heart. And like Dr. Spurti and Dr. Vijay Sarthi mentioned already, even pre-diabetes has a predisposition. Like even without developing diabetes, these long-term complications. That is why, like, we had lots of propaganda in social media. I am sure you also would have seen that why are the cutoffs for diagnosis of diabetes being reduced year by year. Even when I was a medical student, the fasting cutoff was 140. Now it is 126. So we also have seen this. The cutoff is being reduced. It is not to promote any industry. It is because the long-term complications of diabetes starts. The risk increases when the fasting blood sugar crosses a certain threshold. So that is how this concept of pre-diabetes came into being. It may not reach the diabetes cutoff in every person. Some of them may revert also. But during the time when they remain in the pre-diabetes range, they are acquiring that risk. They are accumulating that risk of developing long-term complications of diabetes later on. So we have to be wary, even if the blood sugars are in pre-diabetes range. We have to pay extra attention to our health.
All right. You know what? I'm going to go across the board one last time. Keep your answers short, doctors, because we do need to understand this is an inside job. We do need to constantly introspect and ask ourselves, and that's where motivation comes in, plays a crucial role. So what's the best way to remind ourselves that health and beating diabetes, keeping heart risks away, preventing them, is actually an inside job? How do we keep ourselves, on that progressive journey? How do we keep ourselves motivated and keep reminding ourselves that? Dr. Sarthi, let's begin with you.
Yeah, so it's all about self-care. So in fact, we believe a lot in self-care when we come to the management of diabetes mellitus. So it starts from regular health checks, especially when we are at risk. But the point I would like to highlight here is that if I see around 100 newly diagnosed patients in a month, In fact, more than one third are actually between 25 to 35. That's my major concern. So, like, we need to educate this population in a large, probably that education should start when they are 15 or 20, so that we don't reach this stage when they are
Yep.
25 and 35. So, it's very important to educate this population and also ensure that they do get checked every year before they develop diabetes mellitus. Of course, once they develop diabetes mellitus, most of the time they're in regular follow-ups and we are keeping them in check. So probably education should play a role at the teenage and the young adult level.
Awareness and education right at the start. So those of you who've missed the train, make sure your loved ones don't miss it and educate them further on. Dr. Pai, over to you. The best way to remind ourselves that health is an inside job.
Yes, I think I agree with Dr. Vijay, and I feel it's a family as such which keeps everybody else motivated. It's not just an individual. Whatever parents do, the children learn those things, and we are like mirrors. So when we inculcate good habits in children, like avoiding junk and the soft drinks, ordering takeaways, pizzas, burgers. So I think we are giving them a good education, as Dr. Vijay rightly said. And if the family is supporting each other and motivating each other, I think it is easy to follow and keep ourselves motivated. And we don't have to look at somebody else as an idol to keep our health healthy. So
Yep.
I think it's the family culture which is important.
Empathy
And
goes a long way. Empathy goes a long,
yes.
long way. I think that's one of the treatment factors that the doctors unfortunately can't prescribe. It just has to come through from the family. It can't happen on a prescription page. Dr. Pillai, final word for this webinar session. Over to you.
I agree, like start young, start education from schools itself. And another thing is when a person develops diabetes, find a health partner. It may be a family member, it may be a friend, it may be a colleague, but find a health partner to support in the diabetes journey. And that also will go a long way. And all these apps that we have, regular follow-up from the healthcare practitioner, that also helps. And another important message is physical activity. Never ever give up on physical activity. It is not only about diabetes control, it is about long-term health. So physical activity, maintaining a healthy weight, that is very, very important. The most important aspect of managing health style diseases successfully.
Absolutely. And let me tell all the viewers that are joining us right now, these are very busy doctors. Many thanks to all of you, Dr. Pillai, Dr. Pai, Dr. Sarthi, for taking out the time and educating the viewers yet again on how we can actually beat diabetes and win life. So from awareness to action, let's collectively today pledge to take charge of our health, understand our bodies right from the inside as well. You might look really, sublime and slick from the outside, but there could be visceral and dangerous fat inside that you don't know about. The selfies might not be telling you the right picture. So don't look at the mirror. Maybe start looking at the meter a little bit more and support those around all of you as well. Because when it comes to diabetes, knowledge is power and empathy becomes medicine. Once again, this has been a TV9 special in collaboration with USV, your reliable healthcare partner. Many thanks, doctors, for taking out the time. That's all the time we have for you in this edition of TV9 Digital. Samajhdar Bano, Sehat ke Ishaare Samjho. We'll see you again in one of these webinars. Do tune in to that one as well. Many thanks for watching.